Assalamu alaikum, this is Dr. Mona Idrisi, author of the Muslim Narcissist book and empowerment coach for Muslims. Today's podcast is about the health problems that can arise when you are enduring narcissistic abuse, and I'll also speak about the health problems you may still have after leaving a very toxic environment or a relationship with toxic husbands, wives, parents, siblings, friends, neighbours, or any other people. Okay, so when you remove yourself from a toxic environment, there will be health issues that you'll still suffer from until you process everything and heal, inshallah. So the purpose of the podcast is to create an awareness of all these health issues for you. So you may be going through them and you don't know where they came from. All of a sudden you're getting sick. All of a sudden you're catching diseases. All of a sudden, you're not feeling like yourself at all. You've turned into a completely different person and you've got health issues you've never had before. So I want to create an awareness of where they come from. And if anything is going to put you off marrying a narcissist, it will be this podcast. So hopefully everyone who is currently considering someone for marriage who has red flags and narcissistic tendencies or traits will change their minds completely about wanting to marry them when you realize the dangers of entering a toxic relationship. Okay, because some people know what they're getting into. I'm not talking about the people who fall into these relationships out of naivety or when they genuinely don't know about the person. The person has put on such an amazing facade and has manipulated you so well into falling for their false self that appears empathic and religious and kind and loving. Okay, lots of people do fall for that because the manipulators are such great actors. So no, I'm talking about the people who know that the people who they're considering for marriage have problematic traits and red flags. For example, you might see them have anger issues, or they may have unresolved traumas, or they may be rude and sugarcoat personal attacks and they're offensive and disrespectful. If you see these traits in someone, but you're holding on to that person because they have money, they're good looking, they have status, they're famous, whatever the reason may be, this podcast is for you. Okay, I want you to really carefully listen to this, because if you take on a narcissistic individual in your life as a friend, as a husband, as a wife, then you're going to experience some of these health issues that I'm going to be speaking about today. Okay? Now, it's not all doom and gloom, so I'm not just going to list everything and throw it at you and get you to go and figure it out. I will give you solutions and treatments that you can try to help you overcome these health problems. And these are solutions and advice that I've tried on myself and have helped many of my clients as well. So just before I jump into the podcast, as always, please click on that like button if you enjoyed the podcast and found it helpful. It really helps the algorithm in YouTube, so people will see the podcast come up in their search results when they search for anything similar. And you can click the share button as well to share it with people whom you know desperately need this information. And inshallah, it will be counted as a charity for you to help them. And if you want to be notified about when I release a new podcast, you can subscribe to the channel or sign up to the newsletter on the website. You'll be notified via email or a notification whenever I drop one. The podcasts aren't as frequent as they used to be because I have so much on at the moment and I struggle to find enough time to record. But when I do, you'll be notified, inshallah. And if you need one-to-one counselling and coaching, there's a link below that you can click on. It will take you to the information page on the website about the programs and sessions I offer. And if you need to contact me directly, my email is below in the description box as well. So if you remember, in podcast 23, I spoke about the creation of the human being and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us in 4 parts. So we have the physical body, we have the soul, We have the nafs and the heart that is attached to the nafs, and our intellect, our mind. So when our health is affected, it affects all four parts. Okay, we are affected physically, spiritually, and mentally. So when the mind, body, and soul are all affected negatively as a result of narcissistic abuse, they can together influence the type of nafs we have. And we can either descend or elevate depending on how we choose to heal ourselves and treat the symptoms. So it's important for you to be aware of all of these health issues so that you can place the right boundaries with narcissistic individuals so they at least don't continue to affect your health negatively and make everything so much worse. Okay? So at least you can start your healing journey from now, even if you're still living with toxic people or co-parenting with toxic people and so on. So let's start with the spiritual health issues that you can get from being around narcissists. And the first one I'd like to speak about is the STD. Not a sexually transmitted disease, but a sexually transmitted demon. Okay, I've mentioned this before in previous podcasts. Demons can be transmitted from person to person sexually, especially the ashiq jinn. So if a narcissistic husband or wife has the ashiq jinn, if you have not read your adhkar, it can jump to you. And if it jumps to you, you're going to start having the same spiritual problems as the narcissist. You might start feeling a presence at night, or you might start to experience sleep paralysis. Okay, some people have never experienced this before until they get married to a narcissist. And it can be terrifying for many people, especially when they have no idea what's happening. This is something that happens very regularly to narcissistic individuals because they are possessed and targeted by many jinn. And even if they're not possessed, the presence of the ashiq jinn will cause them to experience sleep paralysis. So if you've never had it before, or maybe you've had it once or twice because of your own spiritual issues and problems, you may experience an increase in the jinn visits at night. And what this jinn does, it sits on your chest to intimidate you. Okay, you struggle to breathe, you struggle to move, you struggle to talk, and you see the jinn or something equivalent in your dream, and you try to escape and you can't. Okay, there's a jinn sitting on your chest when sleep paralysis happens. And this jinn is usually the ashiq jinn. When the jinn is on your chest, it can actually perform sexual acts on you. Some women have been raped by the ashiq jinn. Some men have actually had sexual intercourse with a female ashiq jinn during sleep paralysis. So if this was to ever happen to you, then call out for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help. Only Allah can help you in that moment. And keep repeating, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I seek refuge in Allah from the shaitan. So this is one of the major consequences of marrying a narcissist, especially when you know they're narcissistic. You can take on their problems with the jinn. And you might even experience things like feeling attraction towards the same sex when you never had that before. That comes from the ashiq jinn too. Now someone might say, well, if the jinn has jumped from their body to mine, then does that mean they don't have a jinn problem anymore? And will this jinn now only be attached to me? The answer is no. So if someone just has one jinn, I'm not talking about the qareen, I'm talking about external jinn like the ashiq jinn. If they only have one, then the ashiq jinn will jump between you and them constantly. Okay, because he or she has to make sure that you are always in a state of corruption. Now, if they have multiple jinn, then at least one of them will jump to you. So some people carry tribes of jinn within them. Some carry 2, some carry 10. So depending on how many jinn there are, you could be afflicted with a number of them. Okay? And this is scary, because if this person has no control over their spiritual problems, and they make no efforts like reading their adhkar, then the jinn problems are going to get worse, And the people who they come in contact with can be affected too, if they are also spiritually unprotected. So these jinn work together to keep you in a state of spiritual corruption all the time. Now, if jinn are not involved, you could be afflicted with terrible and heavy waswas. Okay, all of a sudden you'll always be thinking about negative things, scary things. You'll have evil thoughts, bad thoughts, things you never used to think about, you're now thinking about. And you've become a very dark person within yourself because of the constant waswas. And it's because their qareen is working with your qareen. And you find yourself chronically overthinking. And the overthinking is always negative. You've turned into a very negative, pessimistic, bitter person. And sometimes these thoughts are quite shocking. You can't tell people about them because they're so negative about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and maybe about the Prophet ﷺ, or about Islam. So whatever it is, they can be too disturbing to share with others. And you worry about being judged. So when you start getting thoughts like this about Allah, know it's from the qareen. Okay, so many people are plagued by the waswas, the whisperings of your qareen when you are in a heavily toxic environment. And ultimately, the goal of your qareen and the narcissist qareen is to drive you out of your faith. It's to drive you out of Islam. It's to drive you out of sanity. So when you start to question Islam in your mind, and you start to question Allah's love for you, why would Allah put me in this situation? I hate this environment. I don't like who I've become. I don't like this and I don't like that. Why would Allah do this to me? When you are plagued by thoughts like this from the qareen, you can lose your faith. Okay, you can exit Islam completely by being bombarded on a daily basis with negative thoughts about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala perceives you. So if you start to believe that Allah doesn't love you and there's no mercy from Him towards you, there's no care, there's no acceptance or anything good, then you will lose your connection with Allah. And this is where lots of people stop praying. Okay, you're in a toxic environment, you're married to a narcissist, you have very difficult parents or abusive siblings, and you just find yourself losing the will to pray. You don't want to be practicing anymore. Or it's become so heavy on you because of the waswas. And if it's not the waswas, then it's also the jinn problems. It becomes the most difficult task for you to just get up and pray when it was once so easy for you to do. And you used to enjoy it. You used to love having a connection with Allah. But this connection starts to erode the longer you stay in the environment of narcissistic people. You start to take on their problems. If your iman is not strong enough to fight it, if you don't have the awareness of what's going on to be able to stand up to it and not let it affect you, okay? So you've got to be very aware of this because it's the biggest problem any practicing Muslim will face when they are living with highly toxic people. And especially toxic people who have lots of jinn attachments, okay? And there's also something that I'd like you to be aware of that I've spoken about before too, and that is demonic people and the jinn envy you for the faith you have. So if a narcissist has married you knowing you're a good person and knowing you have a connection with Allah and you have that faith that they dream of having, they will aim to take it from you. Okay, it's a primary goal for them to take it from you. And they will do it by making you hate Islam, making you hate Allah, with their religious manipulation that I'm going to come on to in a moment. But this envy that they keep directing towards you, this bad energy, it's depleting you of your joy in your salah. It's depleting you from having enough energy to get up and pray. So you'll feel exhausted all the time and you'll actually have a weak immune system from their constant envy. So if you are married to someone who envies you every single day, can you imagine the amount of black energy that's coming towards you, that's stopping you from being who you used to be? And it also stops you from reaching your potential when it comes to your spiritual connection with Allah. So it's no coincidence that you can no longer read the Quran like you used to as well when you're married to a narcissist. It's because you're so drained from their envy. And like I said before, this can happen with other people too, like your parents who are very toxic, and they don't like to see you praying, and they don't like to see you reading the Quran, especially if you read so beautifully. They can envy you for that. They can envy you for your ability to do what they can't do because there's no connection with Allah. So when they take it from you, they're happy. When they see you drained and too tired to do what you used to do, they are elated because their mission is being fulfilled. Their mission that's been assigned to them by Iblis. It's a subconscious thing that happens through the qareen. And it doesn't stop there, okay? The envy of a narcissistic individual can reach your rizq. You might find that your rizq is blocked. And ever since you've been in their company, your business doesn't grow. And you're having issues at work. And you're not getting what you used to get. Everything's going downhill. There's no barakah in your rizq. There's no barakah in your money. There's no barakah in your time. There's no barakah in your health. You just feel like everything is falling like sand through your fingers with them. You can't hold on to anything. And the biggest calamity that comes out of this is that it can turn you into an envious person when you start to see other people have everything you used to have. Maybe you've lost rizq. Maybe you can't get the rizq you want because this person's envy or these people's envy is blocking things for you. So now you're turning into an envious person and always asking yourself, why, Allah? Why did you not do this for me? Why are you giving other people what I want or what I had? And I'm stuck in this situation. Why? Especially if you're using Islam to justify staying there. Or if someone has brainwashed you into believing that to earn the pleasure of Allah, you need to stay in this toxic environment because they're your parents, because they're your siblings, because that's your husband or that's your wife and these are your children. You have to keep the family together. So you end up asking Allah, why have you not made my life easier? Why am I not getting rizq if you have asked me or you expect of me to stay in this situation to earn your pleasure? You see, it's all wrong. You're not meant to stay there. When your rizq gets blocked by people's envy, you have to leave that environment. I know it's not easy for everyone, but when you blame Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or you're made to believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to stay in a toxic environment so that you can earn Jannah and you can earn His pleasure, then you're definitely going to get faith issues. You're definitely going to question Allah when everything else goes wrong. Okay, you're being more abused, you're getting more distress from dealing with their jinn and dealing with all their problems. Everything's getting worse, there's no rizq, and you're struggling to get up to pray because you can't find the will to do it. So of course you're going to blame Allah. Of course you're going to start resenting Allah for expecting you to stay in this situation when that's not even true. And this is where all faith problems are rooted. Okay, it's your belief that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects you to stay there when Allah told us that if you cannot live in harmony, if you cannot live in peace and with love, separate. Because marriage is meant to be a beautiful relationship. Your home is meant to be a sanctuary. It's meant to be a place of safety. If you don't find safety there, if you're losing your iman there, if you are being abused there, Allah expects you to get out of it, not to stay in it. Asiya radiallahu anha only stayed because back then there were no divorce laws. And on top of that, she was married to the most tyrannical man to walk the planet. So leaving him was impossible. When you got married back in those days, you were stuck. There was no way out. And until Catholic Christianity, that was the case. And it's by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gave us divorce when it's just not working out. If we are in an environment where our deen and our iman are being compromised, we have an obligation to get out. Because saving them is our priority. And if you can't get out, like Asiya radiallahu anha, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will create a way for you to escape. He will come to rescue you if you sincerely want to get out of that relationship, whether that's with your parents or friends or family members or your husband or wife, because you are worried about your iman. She was worried about her iman. She was worried about her akhirah, and she wanted to get out of the environment that Fir'aun had kept her trapped in. And she was martyred at the hands of Fir'aun. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that this would have been her only way out. Okay, it's not out of Allah's cruelty. Where would she have gone back in those days? Women couldn't escape the men. So being martyred was a mercy for her, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted her the highest level of paradise. And even while she was being tortured, Allah showed her her home in paradise, and she died happy. She was martyred in joy, because she knew that was her escape from Fir'aun. She knew the day had finally come when she could have a better life with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She was happy. But after the Quran came down, it is forbidden for any Muslim man to do this to his wife. Any man who martyrs his wife is going straight to hell. I'm telling you, straight there. It is the height of oppression. He has to let her go if she wants a divorce. So unless you are in the situation of Asiya radiallahu anha, and I pray everyone gets rescued from that situation, do not compare your situation to her. Do not justify staying in a toxic environment when you have a place to go. Many women use this excuse because they don't want to leave a toxic environment, and they have a supportive family, alhamdulillah. They have supportive friends, there are shelters they can go to, but they say, no, I want to be given Jannah. Like Asiya radiallahu anha, she had to put up with Fir'aun. She had to put up with a psychopath, so I'm not better than her. And hopefully if I stay in this long enough and if I die in this situation, then I'll be given Jannah. It doesn't work like that, honey. It doesn't work like that. That's not what Islam teaches us. So if someone's told you this, so that you stay in a toxic environment where you are spiritually abused and your health is being destroyed, you are being scammed. And I promise I'm going to record a podcast for everyone who feels truly stuck in a marriage. Okay, so whether you're a man or a woman, this podcast is coming because I know there are some people who have good reasons to not leave, and it's killing them because they want to leave but they really can't. So inshallah, I'm going to shed some much needed light on this issue and take some guidance from the Quran and Sunnah to help you out. Now, another thing you might experience is disturbing dreams. So if you've been affected by the ashiq jinn, you might have an increase in dreams of a sexual nature. Or you'll have dreams that are divine messages for you before Fajr, alerting you and warning you about the evil around you. Okay, so you might have nightmares about the narcissist in your life because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to bring your attention to something. And you also might have an increase in disturbing dreams and nightmares after Fajr because your qareen is working overtime. So you've already got a waswas problem, and now you're having disturbing dreams after Fajr as well to mess with your mental health even more. And the qareen wants you to wake up in a bad mood. He wants you to wake up in anxiety and fear and all those emotions. So you'll be living in your head a lot. And another symptom is maladaptive daydreaming, where you imagine you're living a different life in a different world. So you are conscious of what you're daydreaming about, but you do it excessively as an escape from your situation. So if you can pretend to live a different life in your head, it makes your reality easier to cope with. So just bear that in mind whenever you get disturbing dreams, especially in the late morning, And especially if you wake up again with resentment towards Allah, or you have an increase in self-hatred. Okay, all of these thoughts come from the qareen, and they get so much worse when you are around narcissists. And another thing you need to be aware of is you are more likely to be afflicted with black magic if you are in toxic environments. So the only people who do black magic and spells on people with the intent to harm are narcissists and psychopaths. And they will do spells to completely destroy your health. Okay, they want to take your iman away, they want to take your physical health away, and they just want to block your rizq and have that taken away from you too. I can't tell you how many people I've come across who have had black magic done on them by narcissistic family members, and sometimes their husbands and wives. So you have to be careful. And as mentioned earlier, spiritual problems and faith issues, and also your disconnect from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can come from religious manipulation as well. And as you know, I've spoken so much about this already in so many podcasts, and I dive deeply into it in the book. So if you haven't grabbed a copy yet, please do. It's called The Muslim Narcissist, and I do go into detail about this, and how Quran verses and hadiths are really twisted to have a darker meaning so that it justifies the abuse of narcissists. And of course, this is completely forbidden in Islam and blasphemous too, but this is what's been happening to get people to comply with the dark wishes of narcissists and psychopaths. And will these people have a terrifying experience on the Day of Judgment when they are held to account for this, because not only have they abused people with it, they've also turned away a lot of people from Islam, especially when they drag Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's name into all their crimes and evil actions. So if people are uneducated, then unfortunately they're going to associate the behaviour and actions of these narcissists and psychopaths with Islamic teachings. So people under their influence will have their understanding of Islam distorted, and they'll be brainwashed to believe what is false, and they will be abused with religion until they hate it. Because these people always talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a tyrannical way, and they're always talking about hell and punishments and angels' curses, and they'll curse you as well until you resent everything about it. And they'll always criticize your understanding of Islam and gaslight you into believing that everything you were taught was wrong, because they want you to lose hope. They want you to believe that you're not a good Muslim and that you're a hopeless case, the same way they believe they're a hopeless case. So they don't want you to see hope in Allah's forgiveness and mercy the same way they don't see it. Because when they see you as an empathic person, you become a mirror for what they lack. Okay, they believe they have no guidance, no light, and no goodness. So they hate you for it. They envy you for that. So they deliberately try to make you hate Islam and hate Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and everything about being a Muslim, because you have what they don't have. So if they can drive you out of the faith, it will make them feel better about themselves. So the absolute worst thing that can happen to you during narcissistic abuse or after it is being driven out of Islam, as that will mean they have won and so have their evil jinns. So to fight this, you really need to be sincere and consistent with your morning and evening adhkar. I've spoken about this a few times as well. Always make sure you read them. And do self-ruqya. Okay, so make your own ruqya water with the adhkar, and read Surah Al-Baqarah whenever you can, or just listen to it. And always make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects you from the evil of the jinn and the humans around you. And please try and avoid going to ruqya practitioners, because the ruqya you do on yourself is far more powerful than the ruqya of Iraqi. Okay? So always remember that, and you have the ability and the tools from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to heal yourself. And I also recommend that you learn about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His 99 names via courses and lectures, where you can learn about Allah's love and mercy as well. So when you study Islam with empathic teachers, you'll reprogram your mindset to see Islam in a more positive light, and you'll learn about your rights as well. And when you learn about your rights, you won't be manipulated anymore. And this will help you to enjoy reading the Quran again. And when you start to enjoy reading the Quran and you're reading the translation, you'll be able to build a new and fulfilling connection with Allah. Okay, so it's really important if you're going to lectures and classes that you surround yourself with good people. Make sure you sit with people who have good energy and stay away from harsh and judgmental people, because those people have deep issues within themselves and you can't be around them in your healing journey. And I also encourage you to journal your thoughts. So when you start to separate the thoughts of your qareen from the thoughts that are more logical and healthy, you'll be able to see where the qareen is influencing you. And this exercise is great so that you can become more mindful of your thoughts and you can maintain some control over your waswas. So if you're struggling with whispers from the shaitan, then this inshallah will help you to differentiate between right and wrong and healthy and unhealthy thoughts. And if you're struggling to pray, then try and get back into the habit of practicing by even starting with one prayer a day. Okay, don't let any narcissist or any jinn take you away from your prayers, because your prayers will save you. Every day in your prayers you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim, guide us onto the right path. So as long as you are asking Allah for guidance, He will guide you inshallah, and you will have a better future and you can have a chance at elevating your nafs. So never cut the rope between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by abandoning your prayers, and never let someone cut that rope for you. And if you're in desperate need of rizq and help and Allah's rescue and His mercy, then do your best to abandon the minor and the major sins, because this will greatly increase your chances of rizq coming your way sooner rather than later. Because the major sins in particular often block our rizq. So if we want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness and His mercy and His rescue and His gifts and all the wonderful things that come with rizq, we have to get rid of the major sin to clear the path. And I mean, this major sin could be you giving up on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rescuing you. You run out of patience and you go to a magician and you ask him to turn your horrible ex, who you have to co-parent with, or the narcissist in your life, whoever that may be, into a toad. And you convince yourself that he should be grateful or she should be grateful that you didn't turn them into a pig. Now I'm just saying what loads of people are thinking and what they wish they could do, but they can't. But if someone has lost the plot out there and done something like this, these are the kind of major sins I'm talking about that you would need to repent from and rectify so that you can receive your rizq. And as for everyone out there who held back because of their fear of Allah, trust me, I ain't judging nobody. But know that your reward is with Allah. Because those who know what it's like living with narcissists and psychopaths know that they will push you into every corner of cuckoo land. So if you have no self-discipline, you could get yourself into mighty trouble. So that's the first category now wrapped up about the spiritual health problems that you could get by being around narcissists. And the second category is the psychological health problems that you can get by being around them. So these are the common mental health problems that can affect your level of nafs. So the first one is living in constant fear of your abuser. So if you are being abused by a malignant narcissist, then chances are you're going to be living in fear, especially if they are physically abusive. And if they're not physically abusive, so let's say this narcissist is a man-child or a woman-child, you could be living in constant paranoia that they're cheating, that they're hurting you, they're doing things you don't like behind your back, they're lying to you, manipulating you. If you've caught them out once, you can live the rest of your life with them in complete paranoia, and it can drive you crazy. Especially if they're being suspicious with the way they act around their phone, or because they're spending too much time outside. It is behaviour that causes you to become paranoid about what they're doing, and your mind is occupied all the time with overthinking. Okay, you're constantly thinking about what they're doing, how they're hurting you, and how they're shaming you behind your back, and so on. This becomes your constant thought. So instead of diverting your mind to useful things or beneficial things, or even being productive, you spend most of your time thinking and digging for information and investigating and following them and, all these things because you're paranoid. And if it's not that, then you're living in fear. And some people continue having these feelings even after they leave a toxic relationship. So people might think about their ex and wonder if they've moved on. They start digging and following and, they start spying on them because they don't like the feeling of them moving on. So again, even after they've left your life, you spend and waste so much time obsessing over what they're doing. And even after you exit a toxic relationship, you could still be scared of your ex. You worry about them stalking you. You worry about them hurting you and, doing things maybe in court or running a horrible smear campaign against you. There is that constant fear and paranoia that abuse victims go through during and after a toxic relationship ends with any narcissist. And this often leads to your self-esteem being completely crushed and destroyed. So many people come out of these relationships destroyed mentally, physically, and spiritually. You'll feel no self-worth. You feel like your dignity's been stripped from you. You have no self-respect left. And sometimes your self-esteem is so low, you beg for the narcissist back, even after they've abused you. So if you are someone who is wanting the narcissist back after they have left you or you've left them or whatever happened, then know that your self-esteem is really low. And this is something the narcissist does to you, and they do it to you without you knowing from the beginning. They chip away at you until you wake up one day realizing you are a completely different person and you don't like yourself. And this can lead to severe depression and self-hatred, especially when you feel trapped or when you really regret marrying this person or not escaping earlier. So a lot of people feel this depression after they have a child with a narcissist, after they promise to get better, you take the risk, you stay long enough to have a child, they get worse, and now you hate yourself because of the regret. A lot of people fall into very deep depression because of the regret, especially after they've taken a narcissist back. Because had they escaped the first time round, they wouldn't have gone through that second or third or even 10th cycle of abuse. There are people who have to keep going through these wash spin cycles until they learn. And this regret can really make you sick. And sometimes this depression is caused by the people who pressurized you to marry someone problematic. Maybe your parents pressurized you, or you were conned and scammed by people who introduced you to someone they knew was narcissistic. So you will have this depression and anger and resentment towards those who got you into that situation as well. And there's also the anxiety and anger of not feeling good enough. So if your parents are never happy with you no matter what you do, if your husband is never satisfied, if your wife is never happy with everything you do for her, then that feeling of not being good enough will also chip away at your self-worth and self-esteem. And you'll stay in that environment or that relationship because you're now made to believe that you can't find better and you'll never get better because this is what you deserve. You're not good enough and you're lucky the narcissist is tolerating you. You're brainwashed to believe this, so you stay. However, this is so unhealthy for you because the narcissist is constantly provoking you and gaslighting you to react in a toxic way. So the wrong person will always bring out the worst in you. So you may be someone who's quite patient in the beginning, and you might leave the room when there's a conflict, or when they're acting up, or when they're having one of their tantrums, but eventually that volcano will erupt within you. And when it does, you're going to see the worst side of yourself. Now, if they keep provoking you to reactive abuse, and this is when you start to abuse the abuser because of them provoking you, when you get into the habit of doing this regularly, you can turn into a narcissist yourself. And this is what they want. So when this happens regularly and you get used to throwing things at them and swearing and screaming and shouting and doing everything that they do, because it's the only thing that works and it's the only thing that's now making you feel better, when you can express yourself in this way and express your anger, then over time you can turn narcissistic too. And your level of nafs quickly descends. And boy, when you hit rock bottom, you will come face to face with your own qareen for the first time ever for many people. And don't worry, you're not going to physically see him. What I mean by this is you will see an evil side of you that you never knew existed. I'm telling you, you will see red and a gun to their head, because you'll start to fantasize about all these things, like running them over with your car, burying them in a forest, or you'll start thinking all sorts of things like that. You'll have very dark thoughts, and you have no idea where they've come from. It's because your level of nafs has descended, and you've entered the dark world of narcissism. A lot of people don't talk about this side of things, but this is what causes a lot of good people to turn bad. A lot of empathic people have gone the other way because of how terribly they were treated. So the next time you see someone who used to be so nice and now they're harsh with everyone, know that's what's happened. And they descended to a level of nafs they struggled to get out of. But many true empaths do manage to get out, and they embark on a journey to find themselves again, and they become stronger versions of themselves. And I'll do another podcast about this subject, inshallah. But they do get out eventually. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps them in that low level of nafs for a short period of time to learn something. The same way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala let Yunus alayhi salam stay in the belly of the whale when he made a mistake. So it's not in an empath's nature to react in a narcissistic manner. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to keep them there for a while until they learn something very important, which is usually to be grateful for not being a narcissist. Okay? So when an empath is stuck in that level of nafs, after being a good person, they will start to see the mistake they made and how they wronged themselves and disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the way they were meant to react to certain situations. And when they learn that, that's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them a way out of that level of nafs where they can become better people, and behind them is experience and lessons that have been learned. So sometimes an empath or an empathic codependent will fall into a low level of nafs to humble them and discipline them so they turn back to Allah, because they lost themselves for a short period of time while they were with narcissists. So when you are engaging in reactive abuse, you can find yourself excessively crying over very small things and shouting. You're always yelling and causing drama. And this is something that's mainly seen in women, but men can experience it too. And unfortunately, those who face the brunt of it are the children. So when you take out your anger and frustration on the children, what's going to happen is you can raise them to be narcissistic because they could copy your behaviour. They'd either hate you or copy your behaviour. And if you happen to have a child who is super empathic, they will just grow up feeling sorry for you, and they will want to escape that toxic home as quickly as possible and as soon as they're able to. So you've got to be careful when you take your anger out on other people who are innocent, because you can lose other relationships that are important to you. And you'll accumulate loads of sins for treating them badly. So this is how the codependent mother often turns narcissistic. So she would have been the quiet, submissive one for many years, and the anger and frustration builds up until she becomes as toxic as the father. This is what happens. And sometimes vice versa. Sometimes it's the father who's patient for many years, and then one day he just snaps. And he starts to act out in the same way as the toxic mother. So they use this as an excuse in court to say that, my wife is crazy. She's the narcissist. Look at what she does. She's always yelling, screaming, shouting, swearing, throwing things. But what's not seen is the provoking and what's led to her being that way. It's always him. It's always the main abuser who pushes their victim to become that way. And because of these horrible experiences, a lot of narc abuse survivors, they experience constant flashbacks. So you may be walking in the park, minding your own business, you're having a good day, you're having your ice cream, and then you see someone who looks like your ex, and you get a barrage of flashbacks that remind you of the abuse and the shouting and the screaming and the cheating, and it just ruins your day, and it ruins your mental health for the next 72 hours. Right? So these flashbacks are something unpleasant that a lot of people experience after dealing with highly narcissistic individuals. Another thing people experience is ADHD or increased ADHD symptoms. So you won't be able to focus, your mind is all over the place, you have difficulty paying attention, you forget a lot of things, you're easily distracted, and you procrastinate so much. Okay, you never get anything done, or it takes you forever to get things done. So if you were never like this before, then it's highly likely you got ADHD from narc abuse. And some people also get OCD. So during narc abuse or after, you can develop very strange habits, like tapping your foot constantly, or twitching, or switching lights on and off many times. Or maybe you fear being in the dark now, or you obsessively wash your hands. All these OCD symptoms come with a lot of anxiety. So you will experience very high levels of anxiety on the onset of OCD habits. And you might also experience lots of panic attacks with the OCD. And this can develop into PTSD. So you'll get lots of anxiety about the future, you'll feel a lot of shame, low self-esteem, again, the fear, the paranoia, you won't trust people, you're very irritable, you'll be disgusted at yourself and angry at yourself, and you will feel that self-hatred as well with PTSD, and you'll never be able to find peace. Okay, when you're constantly reminded of the abuse you went through, or you're going through it while living with narcissists, then you really need to get therapy for this. Okay, PTSD is dangerous when it's not addressed. And PTSD, OCD and ADHD can all be influenced by the qareen. If you want to learn more about this, please go back and listen to podcasts 27 and 28. So aside from memory loss, narc abuse can also cause memory fog. And this is when you have difficulty concentrating and getting clarity of thought. So you usually have a cloudy or foggy mind that doesn't allow you to think clearly. And you can also experience nightmares about your ex or the abusers you managed to escape. And these also come from your qareen, especially if you have these dreams in the late morning after Fajr time. And again, the qareen's mission here is just to mess with your mental health and constantly keep you in a state of PTSD. And this is simply so you never heal and move on with your life and elevate your level of nafs. And your qareen on a more sinister level can also give you suicidal thoughts. So some people who have been through brutal narc abuse can often think of suicide. So let's say, for example, they've been trapped in a narcissistic environment for such a long time that they can't escape, or they're being physically abused, or they are verbally and emotionally abused on a daily basis. Some people really do think about suicide, and they get constant thoughts about taking pills or throwing themselves out of a moving car or jumping off a cliff or all sorts of things, you know? It's serious and it's dangerous because the qareen puts these thoughts in your head when you're feeling so overwhelmed and really depressed. You've got to be really careful because these thoughts are not from you, they are from your qareen. And like I mentioned before, sometimes the victim can descend to such a low level of nafs, and you start getting all these evil thoughts about doing terrible things to the abuser. If you act upon them, you could actually end up murdering your abuser, and lots of people have done that. There are so many victims who have murdered their abusers, or at the very least, caused them a lot of physical harm. And this is something the shayateen want from you as well. They want you behind bars for life, so you don't do any good in the world as an empath. And of course, they don't want your level of nafs to ascend. They don't want you to become a great person who has a wonderful connection with Allah. So if the qareen can really put the pressure on you to do something terrible to yourself or to the abuser, then you lose and the demons win. And we can't have that. We can't let that happen. Okay? Now there is one last thing I will mention that many people don't talk about. And it usually happens after a traumatizing experience with a narcissistic man-child or a woman-child, and that is the loss of interest in life. So you're not suicidal, but you struggle to get excited about life. You become lazy. You don't feel like going out anymore. You don't even want to get married anymore. And so many things you used to make dua for, you no longer make dua for. And you struggle to find joy in things you used to enjoy so much. And you don't hang out with friends as much as you used to. So you're not as social as before either. And this is something you need to combat because this narcissistic individual has drained the life out of you. And you need to find your love for life again. And that's easier said than done, I know, but you have to start somewhere. And therapy can really help you with this. Otherwise, you're going to turn into an old, boring, bitter person who doesn't believe in love anymore and who thinks everyone's a narc and that the world will always be such a horrible place. And I get it, it's easy to think like that. But you don't want to spend the rest of your life being that way, when you can build yourself a new life and enjoy it, inshallah. So I really do recommend that you get therapy with a Muslim because they can help you with your deen as well and your mindset. And I also recommend mindful journaling. So write down your thoughts that are problematic and you can work through them with someone or a professional. And I also recommend that you read lots of Islamic books and self-help books because they really do open your mind and you will understand yourself a lot better as well. And I also recommend that you go through the podcast that I've provided because there's so much information and content that will help you understand yourselves and the people around you. And as I mentioned before, try and get into better environments with better people. So surround yourselves with people who have great energy, surround yourselves with empaths, and try your best to get back into hobbies and activities that you enjoy. So add these things to the previous advice I gave you about remembering your adhkar and your ruqya and so on. So that's wrapped up all of the main points in the psychological and mental health category. So now we'll move on to the physical health problems and illnesses that you can get when you are around narcissists and psychopaths. So if you ignore the spiritual and psychological health issues that come with their own traumas, then what's going to happen is they're going to start manifesting in the body as physical illnesses. And this is how your nafs gets your attention to alert you that something is wrong and needs addressing immediately. So the longer you leave those issues, the more you're going to see physical problems appear on your body. And this will turn into a catch-22 situation because people who have chronic illnesses and diseases will experience spiritual distress as well. So this can manifest as a feeling of being a victim of divine injustice. So you'll feel that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been unfair on you. You've just been through so much narc abuse and now you're sick and you've got a disease. So you'll be questioning your faith. You'll be questioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His plan. You'll be questioning the divine decree. And this could take you down a very deep rabbit hole. Okay, and it can cause you to completely disconnect from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's really important that you are aware of these physical illnesses because most of them, not all, most of them will have come from the spiritual and psychological issues that you had experienced beforehand. So the most common illnesses that come from narcissistic abuse are autoimmune diseases and problems. Autoimmune diseases are health conditions that happen when your immune system attacks your body instead of defending it. For example, lupus is a chronic autoimmune disease where the body's immune system mistakenly attacks its own tissues and primary organs. So it causes inflammation and damage, potentially affecting various parts of the body, like the joints, blood cells, and the skin. And unfortunately, lupus is a long-term condition, meaning it can persist for years and will require ongoing management. So lupus is actually quite common among narc abuse victims, and the common symptoms of it are chronic fatigue, joint pain and swelling, skin rashes, regular fevers, and hair loss. Narc abuse victims can also suffer from thyroid diseases, including Graves' disease, where the body makes too much thyroid hormone, and this is called hyperthyroidism. So this speeds up the body's metabolism, and this can trigger many symptoms, such as rapid weight loss, which makes it very hard to keep weight on, and hand tremors and rapid or irregular heartbeat. And you also have hypothyroidism, when the thyroid doesn't make enough of the hormone. So common signs of an underactive thyroid are tiredness, easy weight gain, feeling depressed all the time, and having very low energy. Some people may also develop type 1 diabetes, which is a condition where the immune system damages the insulin-producing cells in the pancreas. So the medication for this is usually insulin tablets, and if it gets worse, then daily insulin injections are needed. Some people can also suffer from rheumatoid arthritis, and this is a form of arthritis that attacks the joints and can be very painful. So traditionally, arthritis is connected to the elderly, but when you're suffering from narc abuse, you can get arthritis in your youth. Some people may also develop skin conditions like psoriasis, which is a condition marked by thick, scaly patches of skin, or even eczema, which is a common chronic skin condition characterized by dry, itchy, and inflamed skin. And both of these skin conditions can flare up after you experience chronic stress. It's also common to experience hair loss, hair thinning, and alopecia. So alopecia is an autoimmune disease that occurs when the body's immune system attacks the hair follicles. There are 3 types of alopecia. The first type is alopecia areata, and this is hair loss that occurs in small round patches on the head. The second type is alopecia totalis, which is hair loss across the entire scalp. And the third type is alopecia universalis, and this is hair loss across the entire body. Alopecia is also triggered by chronic stress. So other common symptoms of autoimmune diseases include headaches and migraines, and the best way to treat a migraine is to put your feet in hot water. So either get a tub of hot water or place your feet in the bath, and that will inshallah reduce your symptoms. You may also feel back pain and muscle pain, and you'll have more knots in your muscles than normal. You might have fried nerves as well. Narcissists love to pan-fry your nerves. And they do this by stressing you out to the max. You may also feel restlessness, and you may regularly hear a ringing in your ear. You'll be hypersensitive to noise, and you'll want to sleep all the time. Okay, a narcissist might call you lazy, but actually your body has been in survival mode for so long, and it's in desperate need of healing and recovery. So you'll get sleepy quickly because your body needs to recharge. So I always recommend people to sleep when they need to sleep, especially after they've come out of a toxic environment, because your body has been so hypervigilant for so long and it's been protecting you. So when it leaves a toxic environment, it feels safe enough to sleep and relax. And it basically catches up on all that time when you didn't get to sleep because you couldn't sleep at night. You were always up tossing and turning, you had insomnia, or you just couldn't sleep from overthinking or from constantly being worried or scared. And sometimes when you are always worried and scared and nervous around your abuser, you will frequently urinate too, and this can leave you constantly dehydrated. So I would recommend that you take electrolytes in your water to ensure that your body stays healthy and that your cells function efficiently. Another common issue that narc abuse survivors face, and also those who are still victims, is IBS and digestive issues. So irritable bowel syndrome is a digestive condition that causes abdominal pain and changes in bowel movements. It's a functional gastrointestinal disorder, meaning it's related to how your brain and gut interact. So you can get IBS and other chronic digestive issues from severe stress. The symptoms of IBS are stomach cramps, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, excessive gas, feeling sick, and heartburn. You'll experience most of these symptoms, if not all, on a daily basis if you have IBS. Now, a more serious digestive issue that you could develop if you are under, again, chronic stress and you are always being subjected to abuse is Crohn's disease. So Crohn's disease is a chronic inflammatory bowel disease that causes inflammation of the digestive tract. Crohn's disease has no cure yet, so it's a lifelong condition, but the symptoms and flare-ups can be managed with good diet and medical treatment. People can also suffer from neurological issues such as epilepsy. So being subjected to severe narcissistic abuse can trigger seizures, and they are recurrent brief episodes of involuntary movement or altered awareness caused by abnormal electrical activity in the brain. So I know people who developed epilepsy from narc abuse because they couldn't deal with the stress of the narcissistic rages and the tantrums and the screaming and the physical abuse. And these seizures can be dangerous, especially when you're on your own. So for example, if someone was to have a seizure and hit their head, then they could fall unconscious and stay like that for hours. So it is dangerous, if no one's there, it could develop into a more serious problem. And God forbid, it could be fatal as well. Another neurological condition that some of my clients have experienced as well is Bell's palsy. So this is a disorder that causes temporary weakness or paralysis on one side of the face due to a swollen or damaged nerve. So one side of the face may droop, or the person may have difficulty moving the muscles on that side when smiling, frowning, or closing the eye. This can last from days to weeks, and it's usually triggered by a very high level of stress. Another common issue is the increase in blood clots from suppressed emotions. So when you're feeling grief, sadness, anger, rage, if you bottle it up inside, it can manifest into a physical problem. And this can lead to heart disease and even a stroke. And sometimes suppressed emotions can also trap the toxins in the body and especially the kidneys. And this can lead to kidney failure as well, because the kidneys will struggle to filter out toxins and release the toxins because there's such a build-up. And this can negatively affect your bowel movements, your metabolic system, and your blood. And the best way to treat this is with hijama. So if you go for wet cupping where the blood is extracted, then inshallah you'll have a great chance at taking out many of these toxins and blood clots to reduce your symptoms and cure illnesses. And this is a sunnah practice, so the Prophet ﷺ used to recommend hijama for everyone who was sick, whether they were sick psychologically, spiritually, or physically. Because like I said, hijama can take out the blood that has been contaminated by the suppressed emotions that have formed the blood clots. And you can also do hijama for your arthritis. You can do it for respiratory problems, headaches, migraines, and everything else. So I do highly recommend this. Narc abuse can also make asthma worse. So if you're asthmatic, panic attacks that are triggered by narc rages and gaslighting and everything that they do can trigger asthma attacks and breathing problems. And you'll also be at risk of developing high blood pressure. Now, as you know, narcissists in general don't feel shame when they commit major sins, so they're highly likely to cheat. And if they cheat, you're at risk of getting STDs from them. And this time, the STD is not a sexually transmitted demon, it's a sexually transmitted disease like syphilis and gonorrhea. And the worst of them is HIV, which is fatal. So if you know your spouse is committing zina, you really need to research the symptoms and the different types of STDs and maybe get yourself tested too. Because if God forbid you find that you have something, then it's best for you to know sooner rather than later so you can start medical treatment immediately. Women will also notice that they have lots of hormonal problems. So you may have period problems now. You may have missed periods, your cycle completely changes, it's all over the place. And you may have even entered premenopause. Okay, this is what narc abuse does. It completely dysregulates your menstrual cycle. And this can make it very difficult for you to get pregnant as well. This is divine protection. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is protecting you by not allowing conception to happen. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that this narcissist is in your life temporarily, then He will not allow you to get pregnant, especially if you are being trapped. However, if you are a toxic codependent and you see all the red flags and you still want to get pregnant, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may teach you a lesson here about having children with a toxic person. However, if you are trapped, no matter how much you try, you won't get pregnant. And it's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want this baby to come into the world. So whatever you do, please listen to me carefully. Whatever you do, do not go for IVF treatment with a narcissist. You will regret it to the moon and back. And as for those who had children with narcissists, those children were meant to come into the world for a reason. So don't hate yourselves for it or beat yourselves up over it. It was qadar Allah, divine decree. If Allah wanted to stop it from happening, He would have. I'm just addressing those who don't have children yet, but they know they're living with an abuser. And I'm addressing men too, because narcissistic women will trap you with a baby. They will do everything they can to get pregnant. When they see that you're not in a hurry to have children, that's when they'll trap you with children. And you'll also notice that your narcissistic wife, or you as an empathic person married to a narcissistic man, will have miscarriages. Okay? Now, if your wife has miscarriages, this is a message to you from Allah to be careful. Open your eyes, open your mind. There's something wrong in this situation. Okay? And if you are an empathic person married to a narcissistic man and you continuously have miscarriages, I know someone who had 9 in a row and she was married to a malignant narcissist. This is your body rejecting the fetus of the narcissist. Your body doesn't want to hold this baby, so it rejects it. That's the spiritual understanding of this. Okay, your body will reject what it doesn't want. So when you put pressure on your body and you go and get IVF, then sometimes you'll get a lesson from that IVF treatment. A lot of people had children from IVF who made their lives a living hell. Always remember what I taught you in the previous podcast about Khidr, when he took the life of the little boy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not allow the boy to be taken as a punishment for the parents. It was for protection. So miscarriages are protection. Not being able to conceive is protection. Pregnancy complications that don't allow you to go to full term, they're protection. Because honestly, going through pregnancy with a narcissist is a horrible experience. Ask anyone who's done it, and they'll tell you. They can't take care of you. It's such a stressful, horrible, traumatizing experience that will affect your baby. So all that negative energy, all that abuse, all that crying, all that screaming, all that yelling, that goes to the baby. And this energy affects the baby when he or she is born. Many doctors haven't been able to find the reasons why many babies cry. For no reason whatsoever. There is a reason. They've been affected by the energy of the mother during the 9 months when she was abused and screamed at and yelled at and physically abused and everything. The baby absorbs that energy. So pregnancy and having children with narcissists is not a pleasant experience. You don't want to go through that, especially when you know they are abusers. You are already going through abuse. What on earth makes you think that having a child with an abuser is going to make everything better? It makes things 10 times worse. They have no compassion for you when you're pregnant, and they'll still abuse you on the day you come back from the hospital. They expect and demand so many things of you when you've just had a C-section and you can't move and you're in so much pain. They don't care. They want you to get up and make them food. They want you to get up and clean the house. They're like that. Alhamdulillah, I've never experienced that. I've not gone through pregnancy, or I don't have children, but I've spoken to so many women about this. And I'm telling you, it's always the same story. And all this distress and fatigue and depression can actually make you age faster too. So chronic stress and lack of sleep and continuous abuse and being subjected to rages and tantrums and being yelled at can accelerate biological aging through increased inflammation and cell damage. So this can make you look older as well. You'll age quicker. You'll feel it in your body. You might be 30, but you feel 60, because this is what narc abuse does to you. And it doesn't end there. The longer you stay with a narcissist, the higher the risk of you getting brain damage as well. They can drive you insane. Okay, you actually might start to develop serious mental health conditions that cause you to be insane. And you'll be more likely to develop diseases like Alzheimer's. Or you could get diagnosed with bipolar disorder or even schizophrenia. Wallahi, narcissists have driven people to this. And you'll be on antidepressants and medications just to cope with life, just to survive. And unfortunately, the really sad part of this is many people got cancer from narc abuse because of the chronic stress, an unhealthy lifestyle, because of blood clots and tumours and suppressed emotions. Many people get cancer from emotional and psychological problems, especially when they're on so much medication that's already giving side effects. So everything clashes in the body and it causes your immune system to completely break down. And when that happens, you are susceptible to so many diseases and viruses. And this can lead to more depression. And before you know it, you are completely disconnected from yourself and Allah, and you will neglect self-care and hygiene due to feeling no love for yourself at all. Because you'll be completely and utterly exhausted. You've got no energy to take care of yourself, so you start eating badly, you don't shower for days, sometimes weeks, you don't take care of your skin, your hair, your nails. You are a complete mess. because you just don't care anymore. Men will have rough and messy beards. They'll look unwell, and you'll either put on so much weight or you'll lose so much weight. Okay, it's usually one or the other. And this is where people usually develop eating disorders. So you'll either have bulimia, when you make yourself sick all the time and you get really skinny, or you binge eat for comfort. So when you binge eat, you're not only putting on so much weight, you're adding so much stress and pressure to the body, and you're giving yourself extra health problems on top of the obesity. So both those who lose weight and gain weight will develop body dysmorphia. And if you look at yourself in the mirror after narc abuse or during narc abuse, and you see that you've aged, you're losing your hair, you're so skinny or you're obese, and you just look terrible, your skin's bad, your hair's bad, you will develop severe body dysmorphia. And you will always see yourself as ugly, and you will completely give up on yourself. You will not work on yourself. You will not even attempt to look better or feel better, because at that point you would have given up, and the narcissist takes full advantage here. This is when they go and take a second wife. This is when they cheat. This is when they kick you to the ground and divorce you. It happens here because by this stage you are no longer a valuable source of supply to them, because you're a liability to them now. They have to look after you and they don't want to, because they don't have it in them. Narcissists don't have it in them to look after anyone, not even their own children. So when they are left with the only option of taking care of you, they will abandon you physically, emotionally, psychologically, one or the other, or all at the same time. And by this point, the victim is disconnected from themselves, disconnected from their salah, disconnected from Allah, and the trauma of feeling abandoned and discarded can make them turn to addictions. This is where victims start their addictions, and that could be drinking, smoking, could be drugs, could be pornography, it could be anything. It could be binge eating, just to cope with the abandonment and all the trauma that came with being discarded or completely devalued. And it's because they took it personally. Like, I spent all these years looking after the narcissist. Why is it when I need him or need her, they're not there for me to look after me? Please don't take it personally. They can't. They don't know how to look after anyone. They are so self-centered. They think the world revolves around them. They were never taught how to be empathic enough to look after someone when they're unwell. They do a fantastic job at making people unwell and destroying people, but they have no idea how to fix. They just damage and destroy. So if you are hoping for a miracle, that the narcissist will wake up one day and make you breakfast in bed and give you foot rubs and take you to the hospital and give you your medication, you're not living on this planet. Your mind is not here. This is wishful thinking, because unfortunately it doesn't happen. You need to take your own healing and well-being into your own hands. You got to this point because of the narcissist, so don't expect them to fix it. I promise you they'll only make it worse. I've also come across people who suffer from lymphedema and lipedema. So lymphedema is the build-up of fluid in the body's tissues, often causing puffiness or enlargement in areas like the feet, ankles, legs or hands. So sometimes the lymph nodes get blocked, and it can cause your arms and legs to be really heavy, painful and uncomfortable. So it's the build-up of excess fluid in the body that makes you look a lot bigger than you are, and that's where all your excess weight comes from. So if you suffer from heart problems, kidney problems, liver issues, and of course health issues that are caused by stress, then you are at risk of developing lymphedema. And lipedema is a chronic condition characterized by an abnormal build-up of fat and connective tissue, primarily in the legs and sometimes the upper arms. This disproportionately affects women and can cause pain, tenderness, and easy bruising. So this is like a chronic case of cellulite that builds up in the arms and in the legs. So it can make you look a lot bigger than you actually are, and it can add pressure to your knees and your joints. So you'll find it difficult to walk around sometimes if you have this condition, and it's very difficult to exercise as well. Your legs will feel so heavy and so painful afterwards. Men can get this as well, but it's rare. It's something more commonly seen in women. And note that sometimes the body holds on to something in excess, like water or fat, because it's in survival mode. And this is why so many victims often look swollen, because they are in survival mode. So I would adjust your diet accordingly. So for example, people who have lymphedema are noted to have higher salt levels than others because they crave salty foods when they have this condition. So you need to reduce your salt intake. The body will hold on to excess fluid when there's a high level of salt in it. And if you suffer from lipedema, you're more likely to crave sugar. And of course, this turns into fat and it's not helping your condition. So a good and healthy diet is crucial for people who suffer with these conditions, because if you let yourselves go, you can develop serious body dysmorphia, and this can turn into self-harm to cope. Okay, the NHS has reported many cases of self-harm and suicidal thoughts because people hate the way their body looks from these conditions. So all of these health problems that I've spoken about today damage the nervous system. And this is my final point. Narcissistic abuse primarily targets your nervous system because it's connected to everything. It's connected to your physical health, spiritual health, and your mental health. So I'm going to give you a list of signs that you have a damaged nervous system so that you can start taking the right actions, inshallah, to heal yourselves. So I'll start with headaches that are persistent, sudden, or different. Then you have seizures, weak vision and double vision. You could experience regular blurriness, hearing issues, regular loss of smell and taste, bad blood circulation, so you'll always get cold feet and hands, heart tremors or uncontrolled twitching, usually in the face, slurred speech or other language impairments, regular loss of balance, dizziness or vertigo, confusion or a change in level of consciousness or behaviour, and regular nausea. You may also experience chest pain that's stabbing, sharp or tingling, pain that's hypersensitive to touch or cold, or pain that's shooting down a leg, which is sciatica. You could also experience muscle weakness, aching or painful muscles, weakness in the arms or legs, which makes it very difficult to exercise, difficulty moving a part or all of one side of the body, and feeling out of breath all the time. So even if you do something very simple, you are quickly out of breath, even if you are not overweight. You'll feel a tightness in the chest, like for example when you walk up the stairs in your home, because respiratory problems can come from a damaged nervous system. And you could also experience regular numbness or pins and needles in the arms, hands and feet. Or you could feel like you're wearing a tight glove or sock most of the time. People who have a weak nervous system often experience going numb in the arms when they're sleeping. So you wake up and you can't feel anything in your hands or your arms or your feet. So this is a sign. And also if you sleep curled up in the dinosaur position. So some people sleep with their hands curled under their chins. So you'll look like a T-Rex with the fingers together and pointing down, or you'll be curled up in a ball like a fetus. And the very last sign I want to mention is premature grey hair. So yes, this can be genetic, but premature grey hair can also appear from chronic stress. I've seen people in their 20s and 30s have a full head of grey hair, and sometimes they have grey beards too, after dealing with narcissistic individuals. So what are the solutions to help restore health and balance? Well, here's a list of all the things that I would recommend and suggest to you to inshallah help you with your healing. So the first one is hijama, like I mentioned before. Do go for hijama whenever you can, because it really is a body cleanser and it's also a spiritual cleanser. So if you're afflicted with jinn, this can help you with that too. So I recommend that you go once a month and then you can increase it to once every 2 months as the quality of blood improves. I also recommend regular fasting. So do the sunnah days on Mondays and Thursdays, especially if you're struggling with your weight and if you're struggling with IBS. Fasting gives your body the time it needs to recover and to cleanse itself from all the toxins. You also need to get back into a regular habit of praying the 5 daily prayers and reading at least 1 page of Quran a day and remembering your morning and evening adhkar along with regular dhikr. So when you're in the car, when you're walking, when you're going somewhere, get into the habit of repeating Astaghfirullah walhamdulillah wa la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar. And take advantage of the prime times for dua, like at Tahajjud and the day of Arafah and during heavy rain and also on Fridays to pray for yourselves and your healing. I also recommend that you take some time out in the day to practice deep breathing because this can offer so many benefits, including stress and anxiety reduction, improved sleep, enhanced focus, and better digestion. And of course, it will help you too with respiratory problems and also metabolic issues if you are struggling to lose weight. And this takes me on to daily exercise. So get into the habit too of doing at least 20 minutes of exercise, even if it's just a light walk around the block. It's important for your circulation and also your mental health and well-being. You also need to be regular with the medications your doctor prescribes for you. And look into your options for surgery and medical procedures like liposuction if you have chronic illnesses like lipedema. Because if you're struggling to move, then you can improve the quality of your life by having a surgery or a procedure done. And if you do have body dysmorphia, please try and stay away from unnecessary aesthetic plastic surgeries to please narcissists. Okay, don't do it. So many people undergo these surgeries and treatments and procedures and ruin their health even further. So if you suffer from body dysmorphia, it's better for you to speak to a therapist first and go through your options then, as they will give you healthier suggestions. And I also recommend to look into holistic therapies like homeopathy and physiotherapy, and even visit people like chiropractors and massage therapists. These treatments can really help as well. I personally am a huge fan of homeopathy. My mother is a homeopath, so I was raised with natural medication, and I find personally that it works much better than others. So don't dismiss alternative therapies and natural medicine. It's a great idea to find natural remedies for illnesses and symptoms when you can. And I highly recommend that you read books about prophetic medicine. You'll find so many golden nuggets in them. I also recommend that you take natural supplements when you can. I purchased mine from a man called Mr. Health Life, and they've really made a difference to my health. I will post a link to his supplement box below. They're worth a try, and he's got loads of great product reviews, mashallah. He's also a practicing Muslim empath, and these are the people you want to purchase your products from. And of course, I recommend therapy for everyone. If you have issues, if you need to talk to someone, if you need to process your emotions or express how you feel to someone, go to a therapist. And I recommend a Muslim therapist. Okay? Don't go to non-Muslim therapists. They struggle to help you and understand you when it comes to Islam and culture. So do go to Muslim therapists who are qualified and trained to deal with the issues you are going to them about. I also advise you to cry whenever you need to cry, because suppressed emotions, like I said, can cause blood clots in your body. So find a nice quiet place for you to sit, even if it's in your car, and whenever you feel the urge to cry, let it out. don't bottle it in. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the ability to cry so that we don't trap the emotions in our body. This is a way for us to release these emotions by letting them out in tears. So don't distract yourself and don't do other things to avoid crying. Whenever you get the opportunity, just go to a private place, and just cry it out. Crying isn't a sign of weakness. When you get the urge to cry, that's your body telling you, I've got trapped emotions right now that I need to get rid of. And that's why you feel so much better after you have a really good cry, because your body has let go of so much negativity. And do try your best to get 6 to 8 hours of sleep, because a good sleep can help you to regulate your nervous system and your immune system. And it helps your digestive system recover from the day, and it helps your body to heal and for your cells to repair themselves. Try and also drink good quality water, invest in a good filter, and add electrolytes to your water. This will help you if you have edema and headaches and other issues that are caused from dehydration and stress. And do your best to stay away from chemical products, processed food, and chemical skincare as well that have long shelf lives. They are packed with dangerous preservatives. Your skin is your biggest organ, so when you constantly use skincare products that have so many chemicals in them, you are not helping your health issues. So try and find natural and organic alternatives, and invest in better food that is healthy, fresh, and organic. If you can't afford organic, then at least cook meals from scratch. Don't buy those ready meals. Don't buy loads of fried food and sugary snacks. Try your best to maintain a healthy diet. Many health issues you can get from narc abuse can easily be treated by changing your diet to a healthy and balanced one. I also suggest that you spend more time in nature, especially if you like animals as well. So being in nature and around animals can be very healing for your body. I personally find this very healing, and I spend a lot of time in nature because being around trees and fresh air and horses and flowers and plants and open spaces can really improve your physical, mental and spiritual health. You can connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better in nature as well. So spend more time there, especially if you live near the sea or near a lake or near a forest. Make use of these environments. And if you don't happen to live near natural environments, then I recommend that you just do your best to be in healthy environments where there are people who are empathic and loving and kind. You want to be around Muslim believers. And you should do this anyway, regardless of where you live. But if you don't have the natural environment to escape to, then this is your priority. You need to find these spaces, especially if you're going through abuse or you've just come out of a toxic relationship. You want to be around good people who can help you and benefit you, and always remind you of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the divine decree, so you feel better. Being around good people is so healing as well. And you're likely to meet these people at Islamic events and lectures, and also at the mosque and retreats. I'm seeing a lot of Islamic retreats happening now, alongside day trips and fun activities that cater for Muslims. These are great opportunities for you to meet like-minded people. So you might find trips within your country or within your state, and there are also trips abroad, like to Palestine and other Muslim countries. So do look into them if you are looking for a new environment and new friends. And in general, picking up new hobbies or going back to old hobbies you had before you went through narcissistic abuse can really do your mental health a lot of good as well, because you're keeping yourself busy with something productive, and it will also allow you to enjoy life again. And the last point I'd like to make to wrap this all up is to slow down. Okay, slow down, organize yourself better. When you're always in a rush to do things, you're not helping your nervous system. Eat slow, pray slow, walk slow, not too slow, but you know what I mean, so that you can absorb and process and deal with life in a calmer manner. when you are always so disorganized and you're left rushing and leaving things to the last minute and you're stressing and you're panicking, you're not going to help your nervous system at all. You're going to make it so much worse. So slow down, try and take it one day at a time so you don't get overwhelmed, and process everything as you go along, and make time for self-care. Invest in your skincare, like I said before. Invest in natural, organic products. Invest in taking care of your body. Go to spas, get some massages and get your hair done, and run yourself some luxury baths. Just take some time out to take care of yourselves. You'll feel so much better as well. And your body will thank you for it. This is also a form of worship. Don't allow your nafs and your soul to be imprisoned in this physical body that is always so unwell. There are steps you can take to improve your health and the state of your physical body, and this is a ibadah. You're going to be rewarded for it. So please don't be stingy with yourselves, okay? Your health and your body need to be invested in. And some people have asked me about new age therapies like yoga and hypnosis. And I'm going to leave this subject, inshallah, for another podcast because there's a lot of information to cover. So please take the advice I've already given you in this one, and inshallah you will be in a good place to start or even continue your healing. So as you can see, all narcissists need to come with a health and safety warning. So if this podcast doesn't put you off marrying a narcissist, nothing will. Nothing will. Because all that problematic behaviour and the red flags and the narcissistic traits you see in them now, believe me, they're going to turn into these dangerous consequences later. What you ignore now will hurt you later. And, some people can't escape it because they live with narcissistic family members and so on. So this podcast serves as a reminder and also as an eye-opener for you to be careful, so that you put the right boundaries in place so that they do not affect your health negatively, whether that's spiritually, physically, or psychologically. Abuse usually starts off emotional, and then it escalates to verbal, and then physical. So the boundaries will help protect you. There are so many people who end up in hospital from broken bones and ribs and teeth, and they're severely bruised, and sometimes they can even have miscarriages from physical abuse. I have a client who got a ruptured kidney from physical abuse. So if you don't have the right boundaries in place, you're going to be exposed to this level of horrific domestic violence. And if you don't know how to place the right boundaries or you're struggling with them, please speak to a therapist. I do offer one-to-one counselling and coaching as well, and I can help you with your boundaries. You're welcome to email me or click on the link below to submit an application form. So I wanted to remind you of a hadith narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu, and Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu also narrated this and said that the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, ما يصيب المسلم من نصب ولا وصب ولا هم ولا حزن ولا أذى ولا غم حتى الشوكة يشاكها إلا كفر الله بها من خطاياه. No fatigue, nor disease, nor sorrow, nor sadness, nor hurt, nor distress befalls a Muslim, even if it were the prick they receive from a thorn, but that Allah erases some of their sins for that. So know that all that pain and all that hurt and all these illnesses won't go in vain. You're going to be rewarded for everything, and you'll have your sins erased. Some of you have been through so much, you'll have your sins erased and the sins of everyone in your village. So always know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His ultimate mercy always gives us a light at the end of the tunnel, and He always wants us to know that nothing goes to waste. Everything is accounted for. So today is officially the last day of Ramadan. The London Central Mosque has confirmed and announced that Eid, inshallah, will be tomorrow. So this is my Eid gift for you. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts and rewards you for your fasting, your prayers, your good deeds, your charity, and your patience throughout this blessed month. and I pray that this podcast is a source of great healing for you. Please do click on the like button if you found this podcast helpful, and do share it with others whom you feel could really benefit from this information. So thank you for listening. May Allah bless you. I hope you have a wonderful Eid, have lots of fun, enjoy yourselves, and inshallah until the next podcast, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.